Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Kalavai Venkat joins us again as we take a look at another country's endgame. We are talking about Iran. Let's welcome Kalavai Venkat as we look at the forces and counter forces there. Venkat namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you?
Sure, I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing well, Venkat So, Iran. We all know that the ruling clique is not the majority opinion of Iran. People say that it's between 8 to 10%. That's all the people who are, associating themselves with the Mullah regime, the really restrictive regime that is in place. But it's been there for a long time now, close to 50 years, in fact, 46 to be exact. Now, there are many options available. First of all, to denuclearize Iran, what happens? Right now, they don't know whether they have a bomb or not, even a dirty bomb or not. Clearly, they have tried a few things, and we don't have any clarity on that. But that is one side. A dangerous, a nuclear Iran is a dangerous Iran. That everybody accepts. Beyond that, what holds for the future of Iran? Iranians are suffering for some of the things that their ruling clergy are making. For example, the sanctions. It is really, really making a huge dent. Not only that, now I'm hearing, this is something that is like 1 day old. What I'm hearing is Houthis are no longer getting monetary aid from Iran. Rather, they are sending them barges full of crude and saying, see if you can sell this and make money out of it.
Yeah.
See, crude cannot be pumped out and used in cars. It won't run. So what is going on in Iran? Your perspective, please.
Well, yeah. So there was somebody else who also sold crude like that in the past, ISIS.
Yes.
Okay. So
ISIS.
you will recall that, right? So before Trump finally finished them off, the American deep state was playing a double game. They were allowing ISIS to sell crude, sometimes even refine it, and then sell the refined POL or the petroleum and oil lubricant products in the marketplace. They did that. So who knows? They can always turn a blind eye to the Houthis and say, look, so long as you uh, completely, disconnect from Iran, we may do that. But those are all just areas of speculation. I think you brought up the most important point, right? How much of support does the Iranian regime enjoy among the Iranians? It's very hard to determine that because it's behind an iron curtain. So any survey has to be clandestine and hard. But Gaman has been carrying out a series of surveys over the last many years, and then all of those indicate that the support for the uh, regime is just 8 to 10%, like you correctly pointed out. Okay, so the question is, can America take advantage of that? Okay, and because all of these dynamics they change the moment the US starts directly engaging Iran and or directly starts attacking Iran, etc. Then you do not know how the dynamics on the ground will change, because then the people may start seeing the US as a common enemy, and then the enemy of the enemy is the friend, and they may go with the regime too. We do not know that. However, what we know for certain is that as of today, the regime enjoys very little support among the Iranian people. However, what they do have is an infrastructure in place. They have this IRGC, they have a complete spy network, they have a complete terrorism network. All of these are heavily funded, and hence they can always keep a tab on the people to a reasonable extent. What is the breaking point? We do not know. It's hard to say, but they definitely do have the ability to keep a tab on all of the people, especially the troublemakers. That will happen. So I think what's the end game that Trump is trying to accomplish here? Like you correctly said, Sree Iyer, the first one is to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. I think it's a bit, they have built a lot of centrifuges, and then they have been processing a lot of uranium, but then the most of the intelligence reports indicate that they are probably 3 to 5 years away from making a crude bomb. But these things are not a given, because a lot of times, proliferating countries like China or North Korea can send their finished refined or processed uranium over to Iran clandestinely, and we saw that happen with North Korea earlier when they sent it to Syria years ago, and at the time Israel took out the complete plan. So those things could always happen, but then the end game that Trump is trying to accomplish is to make sure that Iran does not get nuclear weapon. And why is that important? For multiple reasons. Number one reason is then it will turn into an Islamic bomb, and then all of the countries, starting from Pakistan to Palestine and everything, all of those guys can now use the nuclear threat, and that's going to completely destabilize the world. And that's why Trump is very keen on making sure that Iran does not get the nuclear weapons. And a few months ago, Israel took out one of their S-300 batteries, right? That's protecting their Natanz centrifuges, and Iran could not do anything about it. Okay, all of that's a very precise surgical guided attack on the batteries that are defending the Natanz nuclear reactor, and Israel was able to take it out effortlessly, and Iran could not do anything. So all the indications are that America and Israel have the right technology to take on Iran and get rid of its nuclear capability. But the question is, will they go much beyond that? Okay, will they go to the extent of assassinating the Iranian leadership, military leadership, political leadership, and then replace it with something else that's more amenable to the West? That's a harder question to answer, because the challenge is, what if Iran decides to dig in the heels and fight back? Okay, a lot of countries have done that. Iraq did that with the ragtag army, and any country could do that so long as they're willing to absorb the loss. And if they do that, the question is, can America afford a direct confrontation with Iran? The answer seems to be no. Okay, Colonel, just one point, and then I'll be over to you. So Colonel Douglas, McGregor makes a very important point that the U.S. ammunitions stock is just about 2 weeks or less. Okay, that's the extent of war America can prosecute. And in fact, what they have done is to support Ukraine. They took weapons out of Israel and sent it out to Ukraine. And then when Israel needs it back, they are cutting their supplies to Ukraine and bringing it back to Israel. So that's going to be a tightrope for America to walk. I don't think America may go to the extent of assassinating the political leadership. However, they would take out key targets who are terrorist sympathizers. I think they will completely take out their nuclear capability and prevent Iran from acquiring the nuclear weapons. That's my thinking, Sree Iyer. Back to you. You had a question.
Thank you, Venkat. The reason I put my finger up is because I don't have time to write down the question. It is forming in my mind. By the time you give me a chance, I've already forgotten the question.
Sure, my apologies. Okay, so I'm supercharged after a cup of coffee, early in the morning. I wouldn't shut up. Okay, go ahead.
No, I think I know the question that I wanted to ask you. See, in case of Iran having enriched uranium, and you said that North Korea could be helping them, and that in case of Syria they took it out. But if you remember, North Korea also supplied missile shields to Pakistan.
Right.
And the story is that these guys, North Korea needed uranium enrichment process technology, and in return they were willing to give missile like metallurgy and metalworking technology to Pakistan, so Pakistan would get its nuclear bomb, and North Korea also would get it. So it is believed that Benazir Bhutto, in one of her trips to North Korea, she wore this big long coat, the one like the Russian coat, the great coat they call it, and stuffed the entire thing with CDs, compact discs that had all the data. So if somebody was watching in somebody was watching the airport and things like that, they would not be able to trace it. So this happened, but Israel never really acted against Pakistan, did they?
No, they did not, and there was a reason for that. One, Israel does not really have the reach to get across to Pakistan and take out anything. And also, another reason is the US can still effectively control Pakistan. Okay, so at the end of the day, the entire Pakistani establishment is a criminal establishment, corrupt, and all the generals, all the political leaders, they have looted a ton of money and they are at the mercy of the United States, and the US can control them better than they can control Iran. That's why the US is not thinking in terms of taking out, the nuclear reactors in Pakistan or killing its leadership. They know they can control it by other means. Whereas in the case of Iran, it's truly a theocracy and it's driven by fanatics, so it's hard to control them. I think that's the difference.
Okay, so there was one other thing that I wanted to mention. Viewers, you all wonder how come I have time for this, but I do. I generally tend to, when I'm eating or when I'm doing any snacking where I don't have to think about work, I'm watching TV. So I just recently watched Night Agent on Netflix, season 2. The season 2 talks about the inner dynamics of what happens in the country of Iran. Like you said, some people from the IRGC are in every consulate. Of course, this consulate is right bang in the United States, so that's much more important. So the best and the brightest on both sides, diplomatic side as well as the IRGC side, you find them there. And that interplay, the tensions, the pulls and pressures, everything is in this. Do watch it, because even though some of these shows are titled as fiction, they are very, very close to truth. And that will give you a perspective, at least. I'm not saying that this is the this is exactly what is happening on the ground in Iran, but it does give you a perspective. For example, there was one other thing called Tehran, TEHRAN. If I remember correctly, that was in I don't know, just look it up. That was in one of the content providers. Again, talk about what is happening inside Iran. It's not as backward as people think. It's not as religiously zealot as people imagine, because the face is like that, but not the inside substance. That's what I wanted to say. Now let's move on.
I think that's sorry, that's a good point. See, what happens is a large number of Iranians are not only up against the regime, they are also up against the imposition of hijab and all the Islamic restrictions. And there are twofold reasons for that. One is, until the revolution of 1979, when Ayatollah Khomeini overthrew the Shah of Iran, Iran used to be a pretty liberal place where women are educated. They became doctors, they became accountants, and the country was quite a prosperous place, exported a lot of oil. And hence, you do still have a generation which is still alive, which had in the late 70s experienced a better life, right? So that's one of the differentiating factors when it comes to Iran, unlike other countries like Pakistan, other Muslim countries like Pakistan. Iran is different. And second thing is, Iranians have always considered themselves distinct from and probably even superior to the Arabs. So they do not want to identify themselves the rest of the Arab Islamic world, and they want to stand out. And that gives a little bit of window, so that can we once again tap into their Zoroastrian roots, and can we revive those things? So there is some possibility for that too.
Viewers, again, you've triggered another thought for me to talk about this. Zoroaster is also called as Zarathustra, and supposed to be a disciple of Shukracharya. And Zarathustra is believed to have written everything that was written in Vedas. If it is from left to right, he wrote it from right to left. Everything is a mirror image, and that's how all the other things took place. I mean, what it is believed is that religion is the top, Zoroastrianism, and then from there only the Islam and other derivatives have come, including Christian. Again, this is a belief. We have done.
No, that is, you're correct on that. So in some way, I think 2 points you made. The first point is the Avestan text, that's the Zoroastrian text. Those are kind of inversions of the Vedas, of the Rig Veda. Not in a literal sense of right to left versus left to right, but more in the sense, for us, the Devas or the good beings and the Asuras or the evil ones, that gets inverted there. But in that sense, it's kind of, the other side, the converse of the coin of the Vedic religion. And there was some rivalry between the Iranians and the Vedic people from very ancient times. But the second point you mentioned is very important, monotheism, right? Monotheism actually arises in two different places. It arises in Egypt at some point in times. Okay, Akhenaton, becomes one of the first monotheistic kings there, but that's not what was directly borrowed into Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Their monotheism comes from Iranian religions, from Zoroastrianism in particular, because what we consider Syria, Israel, etc., were all under the Persian Empire around that 500, 400 BCE, and even in many stages beyond that. Okay, so that's the time when monotheistic beliefs entered Judaism, which was a polytheistic religion before that, around 500 BCE or 450 BCE is when it turns monotheistic, and that idea comes directly from Zoroastrianism. And in fact, even when you look at the New Testament, what do you find in the nativity scene? When Jesus is born, of course, I don't believe a historical Jesus existed. I'm just recounting the story. When Jesus is born, three wise men, the Magi, okay, they come from the east and then they come to bless the child. But who are the Magi? Uh, Magi is the plural of Maga. Okay, Maga is, even when you look at the Vedic text, you come across the Maga Brahmana. Okay, so these are the Brahmins who traveled from Iran to India, and then they made a flip, right? They moved out of the Zoroastrian religion to the Vedic religion. But a large number of Maga Brahmins did stay back in Iran, and those Maga, three wise men, are the ones who are alleged to have traveled to Palestine, to Judea, to bless Jesus. So a lot of these ideas are borrowed from Zoroastrianism, and not only monotheism, but also a stamp of approval coming from Zoroastrianism from Iran was very important for the efflorescence of Christianity in the very early days, or even Judaism for the reason. So you're absolutely correct on that, Sree Iyer.
Thank you so much. And I would request our editor Sachin ji to please put the Shukracharya English video link in the chat section here. So viewers, what you want to do is watch this video, and for additional information, because many of you outraged on that comment saying that this is pure fiction. It is not. Go into description. You guys are not using the best part of PGurus videos, which is in the description, in the reference links. We give you a lot of reference literature. I mean, if you want to differ, right, I would really urge you to go through that, understand how this was constructed, and then give a more fruitful discussion. I'm all for tarka, but when you say tarka, when you debate with us, refute with facts. That's all I would ask you. So please take a look at that. That's already put up now. That link, do copy it and click on it after the session is over, so you can watch that and go and look at the reference links. And now let's get back to the main question. What do you think Trump is going to do, Venkat?
I think Trump's idea is very clear, Sree Iyer, right? In his first term, you and I have discussed this in many podcasts before. He is the first president after Jimmy Carter who did not initiate a war. Trump is not interested in war, okay? And I don't think America can even afford a war at this stage. No country can afford, right? So war is going to be debilitating. Inflation is going to go through the roof. And for the countries at the receiving end of the strafing and everything, many generations will be destroyed. Trump is not interested in that. On the other hand, he is absolutely keen on making sure that trade and commerce get a boost, and you can maximize wealth. Okay, so if you look at the big picture, we discussed this in the previous episode. What is Trump doing with Russia? He is not taking an antagonistic stance. Instead, Trump is making sure that Russia becomes part of G8. It comes back into the fold of G8, and he can create a little bit of distance between Russia and China. But most importantly, when it happens, there's going to be economics, trade, and commerce, not only from Eurasia. When Eurasia is all of Russia, then Ukraine, from where the minerals can travel to Europe, to the US, but also the rest of Central Asia, the rest of Middle East, India, everything, right? So he wants to build a trade corridor across all of these places. So I think his end game is to make sure that Iran falls in line the way Russia and Ukraine have fallen in line. Okay, so they have declared a 30-day ceasefire now, and they will eventually get closer to resolution. Because at the end of the day, when America plays its cards intelligently, it can get a lot of things done. So I think here is what Trump's goal insofar as Iran is concerned. He wants to make sure that they don't get the nuke. That's number one. Number two, he wants to make sure that they are not backing Hamas, Houthis, and others, and hence targeting either American interests in the Red Sea or uh, Israeli interests in the region. And then number three, he wants to make sure that Iran no longer poses a threat to Israel. So now, if you look at it historically, countries, the OIC countries were all anti-Israel, right? Now, most of them have made a U-turn. They have made a 180-degree turn. Saudi Arabia, for example, used to be very anti-Israel. That's not the case anymore. They are very pro-Israel today. They are working on signing pacts with them. And then when you look at the only other countries that are supporting Hamas and others, and who are taking some kind of a belligerent stance against Israel, or uh, Turkey and Iran. And out of the two, Turkey doesn't have too many options, because if there is a bit of economic sanction, it will come to a grinding halt. So they will fall in line, and Iran will be left with a very tough choice. Just as Trump wouldn't want to go for a full-scale war, the same would apply to the Iranian mullahs too. They wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of Trump and invite a war, because they don't know how long America can sustain, or America can use proxies like Israel to go back and strike Iran. But most importantly, don't underestimate America's ingenuity. During World War II, when all the men had been dispatched to the trenches to fight the war against the Germans in Europe, America brought all the women out of their homes. They staffed all the weapons manufacturing industry, and then they built uh, warships at the rate of one ship a week. That's what America could accomplish, right? So I won't put it beyond America to accomplish the same things today. And I don't think Iran would want that also, because when push comes to shove, if Trump decides to take out the Iranian mullahs, no matter what the consequences are, they would be dead and gone. And I don't think they want it. So my expectation is, at some level, they will behave exactly the way Turkey or Russia or Ukraine have behaved. They'll fall in line, they'll hand over the Hamas, okay, and then they will kind of get into some kind of a ceasefire truce with Israel. That's what I'm expecting to happen.
But again, that will be like, they'll still go back to putting a pin here, pin prick here, a pin prick there.
Yeah.
It'll never, nobody ever gives up completely. Like, no complete surrender. It's always like, okay, I'll live to fight another day, that sort of thing. Thank you so much.
Especially when it is all fueled by Islam, right? So,
yes,
they are waiting for 72 virgins, and then death is the beginning of eternal life in Jannah. This kind of absurd beliefs are what is fueling that behavior. So, yeah, it's not going to go away overnight.
Venkatji, last decade now, the monitoring of barges containing crude oil has practically slipped out of US's hands, in my opinion. I'll give you an example. At first time, it was in 2016 or thereabouts, when ISIS became, quite active, and they were able to tap oil that is from Mosul. They were owning some of those. They had occupied those refineries until Trump went and cleaned up, and then that al-Baghdadi got eliminated, and so on and so forth. But still, until then, let's say 5 years, they had a setup network, which was that the crude will get transported from Mosul all the way across Turkey to Turkey's Istanbul, for example. And from there, they'll get loaded on these barges, and these barges will start going into the Mediterranean and do big eights in Mediterranean, big eights. And while they are doing that, they will keep periodically turning off the transponder. And they'll say that, oh, atmospheric conditions are not working. What is a transponder? A transponder is a signal that US monitors to make sure a barge on the ocean is safe. If there's an oil leak, you don't want to destroy the entire ocean. That's why the transponder is. The transponder keeps telling someone that, look, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm moving. But these guys were trying to, so every time the transponder would go off, one smaller barge will come, and they'll connect, just like the way we put our car to the petrol bunk. They'll just connect it, offload some oil, and then go on. And this was happening. Now, in this case, now with Iran and Houthis, looks like they don't need to do even that. They're just brazenly doing it now. So in some ways, US has lost control, don't you think?
Very much, because I think Trump is waking up to that. He has spoken a lot about Panama Canal. He has spoken a little bit about the Red Sea. But I think the entire corridor, right, the entire Red Sea, the entire Suez Canal, the entire Panama Canal, need to come under the control of the United States, as otherwise, like you correctly said, there is no check and balance on how someone is going to, put the crude in the barges and take it across the entire Red Sea corridor or even the Gulf of Persia corridor and sell it anywhere. So at some stage, there is going to be a blockading of Iran because I think it's even in India's interest, right? At the end of the day, and Iran, which is hostile to Israel, hostile to the West, is a choke point, right? From India to Europe. On the other hand, let's assume Pakistan is going to implode and break up very soon, and then Sindh and Balochistan get freed up. Then what we have is directly from India through Sindh, through Balochistan, through Iran, we have a corridor that's completely a free trade corridor all the way up to Israel and then Europe and everything. And I think Trump understands that. So yes, you are absolutely correct. So the first chokehold has to happen on the crude that Iran can sell elsewhere, either to the Houthis or to anybody else. And I think that's a bit harder to implement, mainly because America took its eyes off the drone technology, right? So we are not manufacturing in the numbers that we ought to. And even countries like Turkey are pretty, that drones may not be as good as the Reaper series, but then they are pretty decent. At the end of the day, if you have sufficient number of drones, even if they are of a slightly mediocre quality, you can do a lot of things. And with fewer drones, even if they are of the best quality, you cannot do much. So I think that's an area which America has to catch up if they want to have supremacy over the straits, over the passageways of barges and everything. And I think that needs to happen.
Thank you so much. And we have a few questions from our viewers, and we'll take them and then we can wrap it up, Venkatji, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Manoj Soma wants to know, Trump not yet disrupted supply chain of China like he did in the first term as of now. Can we expect anything like that, sir? Cause two wars are happening. Your views?
Probably not entirely. Okay, so simply because I think in the previous one, Sree Iyer and I were talking about the solar panels, right? Even after take the contrast India with China. So the Indian-made solar panels are 40% more expensive than the Chinese-made imported with whatever tariff, 40 or 50% tariffs into India. Still, the Chinese-made ones are cheaper, right? And then second, India does not have. So let's say if, the US decides, Trump decides to put a clamp down on China. What does America turn to? Okay, so for manufacturing, there are only two alternatives, right? It has to be a combination of both. One is bring back some of the manufacturing to the US. To a good extent, that will be done, especially in areas like semiconductor, energy production, chipsets, and all of those things that I think America will do because those are strategic and very necessary. And then the other alternative is going to be to stand up India or a combination of India, Vietnam, and all of these countries to replace China. And that's going to be a long march for multiple reasons. One, take India as an example. Indian skill set is absolutely no match to the Chinese skill set. Okay, and in terms of the work ethic, there is no comparison. And China has a massive economies of scale and the industrial base, and India is at least 30 years behind. So I think if Trump were to go, press the full gas pedal and then shrink the dependency on China, then India has to stand up. Okay, and I think we are still slow on that take. So I think what will most likely happen is China is also not too interested in getting into a very hostile situation with the US. Okay, because China, if you notice, has been downgrading their currency all the time to capture the market, and at one stage, all of this depends on some kind of the promissory note, right? We'll pay back the loan when time comes, and if the US decides to default, it's not the US reputation will take a hit, but then the Chinese economy will go crashing to the ground. So Chinese do not want that either. So I think what will happen is at some stage they will fall in line. There will be Cold War. China wants to be the next superpower, and then in terms of GDP, they are only a little bit behind the US. And in some areas like quantum leap and other things, China has made a significant progress. So they would like to engage in Cold War with the US, but I think overall it's not going to be a complete ban on Chinese. Whereas all of the tariffs and everything is to shift the balance of trade more in favor of the US. That's my reading until now. Who knows? Things could change depending on, the relationship between Russia and China and other things.
Before you go to the next question, I just want to add one more data point to what Venkatji said. See, there is an institute in Australia that measures the strength of countries on 64 parameters. And in this test, I mean, they've been doing this over many, many years. US used to be number one in all but 3 of those 64 segments. Today, US is nowhere close. China is in 57 of those. They are in number 1. This is something that has snuck up quietly on US, and I think Trump is realizing it. Unfortunately, you have the same situation like what exists in India. The Democrats refuse to understand or comprehend. I don't understand. There are quite a few intellectuals there. Somehow they are not able to understand what is really going on with China. I just wanted to put that data out, that US has actually lost quite a bit of ground. It needs to catch a lot of, it has to catch up a lot. Ramchandran wants to know, are Chabahar and INSTC still viable for India in the long run? Should India look towards...
Yeah, go ahead. I think only if Iran falls in line. Otherwise, at some stage, Trump will say India cannot participate in those things, and then India will have no option than to accede to America's demands. However, on the other hand, if Iran falls in line and then they accede to American demands, then I think this is still feasible.
Yeah. Next one, please. Maithili wants to know, Venkatji, does Trump government have the authority to impeach judges?
The Congress has. I'm not a lawyer, okay, but this is based on my understanding.
Good starting line. That's very important.
I'm just a boring techie, right? So but the point is, I think it will happen at some stage, because there are only 2 things that can happen, right? Either Trump completely ignores whatever the federal judges are saying. It goes all the way up to Supreme Court. Either the Supreme Court rules in favor of Trump and then Trump follows that, or they don't and then he ignores Supreme Court too. Okay, there is a precedent in the US. When Biden was the president, POTUS, and he wanted to waive college loans, right? And then the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot do that. And he still went ahead and he did that. Okay, and then he proudly advertised that. So there is a precedent and Trump can do, and it has to happen because there is a whole bunch of rogue judges. All of them are Democratic nominees. And then they are the ones who are destabilizing society. And I hope they are impeached. Okay, either things get escalated to the Supreme Court and Trump gets a favorable ruling, or just impeach these guys. And then, it's wartime, right? So there is no point pretending it is not. It is war, and Trump has to fight it. If needed, fight it dirty.
Thank you, Venkatji. And Maithili ji, we have 2 episodes coming up, 2 short episodes on these things in the next few hours. So do tune in, all of you viewers. This is a very hot topic right now in Washington, D.C. and perhaps everywhere else. This is the U.S. Shah Bano moment, if you will. What happened in the case of Shah Bano judgment by the Supreme Court, and how Rajiv Gandhi overturned it. And also in 1969, when the Supreme Court, held it illegal to nationalize all the banks, Indira Gandhi overruled that and passed a law to go ahead and nationalize it. Good or bad, that's what they do. And because they'll say we have the people's mandate. Anyway, just wanted to tell that. Do come back and watch that one. Next question from 𝗤𝗧𝗻𝗎 Srivastava. Do you think increase in defense budget, appointment of Bolton as NSA and Pompeo as first secretary shows Trump is in mood to end the game of... Wait a minute, when did Pompeo become first secretary? Is this a new announcement?
Oh, I have not seen that.
Yeah, I mean, he used to make fun of Bolton, saying that even if a $15 equipment of US gets damaged in any country, Bolton would say, send our forces.
Yeah. And there was a joke about, he called Bolton an idiot too, right? In one of the public things.
Right. Yeah. Trump is very much in your face.
Oh, yeah. Say the truth like it is.
Yes. Next one, please.
I don't know this. Yeah, sorry. Maybe we can go to the next one.
Yeah, give us some time. We'll come back to you on this one. Pawan Kumar wants to know, don't you think Iran has already have the infrastructure in place to build nukes, but they know the consequences, what will happen if they make it at this time?
Oh, they do. They do know the consequence. I don't think, like the Natanz centrifuge you are talking about, they are not yet at the stage of having enough critical mass. So probably they are somewhere around 70-75% purity. That's what is being reported. Who knows? But they know all of that, right? They know the consequences of going nuclear or even going after Israel or after funding Hamas, Houthi, and everything. Why do they still do that? We can ask the same question about Hamas too, right? In 2005, 2006, they were given Gaza. It was a separate country. It was a beautiful place, wonderful infrastructure. They could have become a thriving economy. Instead, they built tunnels. They killed the Israelis. They invaded Israel on 10/7. They unleashed terrorism. So this is how the Islamic mindset works. It is not guided by reason. It's not guided by foresight. It's not guided by, look, if I do this right thing, I can prosper. I can become a wealthy country, and so can my neighbors. Unfortunately, that's not how Muslims think. Islamic thinking is all about, get rid of the kafir, get rid of the infidel, and the entire world becomes Darul Islam, and then we eventually make it to heaven, where we are going to. This is the planet Earth is only a temporary stopping point for Muslims, and they have to wage jihad to get to heaven, and that's what guides their belief, their actions, and everything. So yes, Iranians know the consequence of doing all these things. They are still doing it because that's how Islam has shaped their mindset.
Next one, please. Harish Padigar wants to know, is it likely that India is supporting in any way the BLA due to its strategic location advantage to IMEC corridor? Will Balochis be friendly with India?
Initially, it will be, but then we have to be, going back to the original question, is India doing enough? I don't think so. Okay. And I think this is the time for India to go hammer and tongs, join hands with Trump, because Trump wants a counterbalancing force to China, and that force could be India. And he is making all the overtures. And the best thing that could happen is India is completely aligned with Trump. And then Modi works closely with the Americans to even go to the extent of liberating Balochistan. Okay. And that's only going to be the beginning of the cascading effect, because the moment Balochistan is liberated, so will be Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, so will be Sindh, and nothing will be left of Pakistan, right? A little Kashmir will be gone, POK will be gone. They are already protesting. They will become part of India or become some kind of a special administrative zone. They cannot come and vote in our election, but we'll rule them. Something like that could happen. And I think that is very much a possibility. However, the second part of your question is the tricky one. What will be the Baloch attitude be? I think initially they'll be thankful to India, exactly how the Bangladeshis were in 1971. But that was only a temporary, thing. And over a period of time, they turned as jihadi as the Pakistanis. And at some stage in 1971, there were 30% Hindus in Bangladesh. Now it is down to 7%. The rest of the Hindus have been ethnically cleansed, chased out, and everything. So long as Balochistan remains Muslim, we should anticipate exactly the same outcome 10, 15, 20 years down the line. So the key is, regardless of what we do, if India and the United States make a commitment to break up Pakistan, turn that entire corridor into a peace corridor, I'm referring to India, all the way through Sindh, Balochistan, Iran, and then into Israel. All of this corridor should be a peace corridor, geared for trade and economics and everything, should be controlled heavily by the United States and its allies like India and Israel. If we go this full 9 yards, I think there is hope. But then if we stop midway through, it's like taking antibiotic for 2 days, but not completing the 10-day dose, then the germ is going to come back with full vengeance. Okay, that's what will happen.
If I have to give an explanation of your observations and how I do my monologue, I do the line in Tamil code. You do the road on top of that. All right. So viewers, do watch my episode on Akhand Bharat 2 days ago. Why I'm smiling was, what you are saying is not even envisioned in my Akhand Bharat. What you're saying is stage 2 of that, but the stage 1 is something else. That's what I had talked about in the Akhand Bharat. Viewers, please do watch it. It's been doing extremely well. again, many of you will say, this is not possible, that is not possible. Yesterday, there was a news that backed up what I had said. The Sitwa port is under India's control now. Go back and read that thing. So it's not a fiction. It's not a, it's a figment of my imagination also. We are doing some things mainly because we see how this is going. Many of the Indian newspapers are all, they're all wrapped up in what DMK said and what ADMK said or not say, or what the judges, and they found money in judges' house. I mean, you shouldn't be surprised at all. Oh, yeah. Look at all the judgments that are coming out. Do you think those are fair judgments? So why do you think they are not giving fair judgments? Why don't people take, logically you have to counter all these things. The judge needs to think 2 times before giving any dodgy judgment. But anyway, that's just us, and we can sit out. Best comment that I'll see on many of our videos, Venkatji, it's easy for you to say, you are sitting in America and saying all these things. Wait a minute, we do go to India, we do follow the laws in India. We don't drive on the right side of the road there. We do drive on the left side of the road. We do follow the rules and laws of India. It's in everybody's interest that, for India to go to the next level. Look at what Venkatji said. In terms of skill set, India is far, far, far behind education-wise. And where is the DMK's biggest protest coming from? We won't accept NEET. We will not accept the NEP. God damn it, 3 languages is not enough today. You need 20 languages.
Exactly. And I think just look at language, right? Like, for example, after 10/7, Israel replaced Gazan workers and
with
Palestinian Authority workers, the Indian workers, right? These are the construction workers. I worked in Israel. I worked, I cannot go into details. I worked in Israel in the late 90s. And I know enough firsthand, right? From a first-person experience. And learning multiple languages in a very strategic manner is in the best interest of every Indian, including Tamils, right? So, if you learn Hindi outside of Tamil Nadu, you can communicate with everyone. Okay, so in every other state, I have not had problem communicating in Hindi in Hyderabad or even Bangalore, at least big cities, and you can manage with Hindi. And then similarly, the aim should be to learn multiple languages so that your economic opportunities increase manifold. And not opposing these things, but the tragedy with charlatans like the DMK and others is they are stupid people. Okay, you won't hire someone like Stalin or Udayanidhi Stalin even for a minimum wages job. You won't hire either of them as Swiggy delivery boys because you can be certain that they cannot read the address correctly and they cannot make a phone call correctly and deliver it to you. So you order vegetarian food, they will deliver fish to you because they cannot read or write. So you won't even give them a Swiggy delivery boy's job. That job will go to an illiterate person from Assam, but not to Udayanidhi or his father Stalin. Unfortunately, these are the fellows who are controlling the power and who are deciding the future of Tamil Nadu, the future of the economy and everything, and they are destroying it, right? And very few people even realize. People are responding to soundbite, oh, I'm opposing Hindi. Why are you imposing Hindi? Come on. There's no such thing called imposing a language. You go to a country like Belgium, you go to Switzerland, those kids grow up learning 4 to 5 languages. They are fluent in.
Minimum, yes.
Yeah, minimum 4 to 5. And look at those countries, how well they are doing in engineering, in manufacturing, in technology, in finance, commerce, name it, they are doing well because these are all interrelated. The more you learn in your formative years, starting from your infancy through age 21 or 22, the more you learn, more languages, more science, more math, more finance, more economics, the better off you would be in this interconnected world. And the more you listen to charlatans and idiots like the DMK, the more you'll be digging your own grave.
Thank you so much, Venkat. And we'll be back again with him 2 weeks from now, same time, same location, same topic or similar topic. Namaskar.
In fact, we can even talk about how education is going to impact the economy in the AI-driven future, and how DMK is destroying it, right? And we can talk about all of those things. Very
actually, Venkatji, if you don't mind, I'll give you a slot sooner because this is more important. I just realized it when we were talking this one that this needs to be talked soon. I'll get back to you offline very soon. We'll be back with Venkatji. This is very important. This is very important because you can make a lot of money. Russia is going to need hands. Ukraine reconstruction. Israel wants hands. Taiwan wants hands. For each of these things, you have to learn a different language.
Exactly.
Japan all will need.
Right. Yeah. Totally with you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you.